Before we get started here, I want to just show you a little bit about what we've got here. We're going to start with the brim. Brim you can fillet out if you get a big enough one. Brim, when I say brim, I mean any of your sunfish family. Most people around South Carolina say bluegill is a brim. There's also other sunfishes that you can dress this way, which is red ear that people call Cheryl cracker, a whole laundry list of sunfishes that you can dress. But something that you're going to need is you're going to need a spoon because we're going to scale. You're going to need a good knife, a good fillet knife, and when I mean good, you want to keep this fillet knife really sharp and in good condition. It doesn't have to split hairs, but if you're going to cut fish and dress them all the time, then you're going to need something to keep around the house that'll keep that knife sharp. Also, when we get to the catfish, we're going to use these cool catfish skinning pliers and this nifty board here. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So we're going to get here and we're going to grab this bluegill. Once you get to the bluegill that are about the size of your hand, that's good enough to eat because this is the good meat right up here along under the dorsal fin. All right, we're going to move this guy to the cutting board, and since we are dressing out this fish what I like to call old school, and we're going to scale it. If you notice, there's a lot of little scales on here, and if you take your hand and rub them backwards, Dan, you want to take your hand and rub them backwards?
It's like sandpaper.
It's like sandpaper. And so if you're going to eat this fish and fry it with this part on, we got to remove those scales. And one way to do that is to take the spoon, it has multiple duties, and rub that spoon backwards. And you can see some of those little scales coming up.
Let me give it a try.
Go for it.
Now, I remember doing this when I was younger. They just fly everywhere, so let's see what we can do. Oh, there we go.
Scales in the face.
And then we continue.
Part of cleaning a fish is getting a little dirty, so you got to be prepared for that.
And I guess these scales would not taste really good if you sat there and forgot to scale it.
Yeah, probably not so much. A little too much texture.
All right, what we're going to do is get underneath this. And then right back here. Do you mind if I dip it in the water to see where we stand?
Go for it. Clean that one off.
All right, bring it straight back. I think we did a pretty good job. All right, Lorianne, I think it's all up to you now.
All right.
I've done the dirty job.
The dirty work. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to make a cut with our fillet knife right here behind the operculum, which is this gill flap right here, and this pectoral fin. So we're going to slice right down there. All right, so we're going to take that fillet knife, we're going to insert it in right behind that pectoral fin, and we're going to cut down. And you're going to feel the bone.
Are we trying to remove the head? Is that what we're doing?
We are trying to take the head off.
All righty.
If I can get it to cut through.
Now, you told us that this knife is very sharp.
It is very sharp, so I'm trying to be very careful and not slice and dice myself and just slice and dice this fish. There we are, we're through.
There we go.
All right, so when you get to this point, your head's still a little attached. You're gonna cut down the bottom right at that pelvic fin, which is this little guy right here. And all our entrails are gonna follow, which is the gross part, but there's our head. Kind of put him in the gut bucket, and then we're gonna pull out all this nastiness.
Yeah, I don't think I would want to eat that either.
No, I wouldn't want to dine on intestines of a fish. Okay, so we've got the fish. We still got one more step to do. We need to open up this gut cavity and make sure we've got everything out. So what you want to do is you want to go right in the vent, which is their exit, and cut down the bottom. And ta-da! We still have a couple little pieces of innards in there that we got to get rid of. And some folks will actually cut this little pelvic fin off. So I'm going to slice that bad boy off. And some folks, depending on what their preference is, they may cut the dorsal and the anal fin. Here in South Carolina, most folks leave that caudal fin because it's kind of considered a delicacy. You'll fry this whole thing whole, and people will actually eat that. So we have got a clean shot of the inside, and before you get ready to prepare this thing, you're gonna rinse it out really, really good with water.
He's ready to eat.
Ready to eat.
Can't wait.
What's next? We're going to take it to the next level, and we are actually going to fillet a largemouth bass. You can also do the largemouth bass like we did the bluegill and leave the bones in it, but with the largemouth bass the size that we've got, I wouldn't recommend it. I would go for the fillet. All right, we're going to start with our largemouth bass.
How much you think he weighs, Lorianne?
I don't know. He's at least a good 1.5 pounds or so.
Yeah, the one I caught was a lot bigger, but
I'm
I guess.
sure it was.
Well, why don't you show us how you fillet one of these guys?
All right, we're gonna get started. All right, just like the bluegill, these guys also have scales, but if we are filleting a fish, we don't have to worry about it. One of the first things that we're gonna do is we're gonna make the same incision, angle the knife, right behind the operculum and the gill flap.
So you're saying we don't have to scale them?
We don't have to scale this guy, and you're gonna go down until you feel that backbone and that rib cage. You're not gonna go all the way through. Then you're gonna turn the fish, and you're gonna always wanna cut away from you and put the fillet knife in, down the dorsal fin. You wanna be even, and you'll feel the ribs. You wanna be between the ribs and that nice fleshy piece of meat.
And this is what it's real important to have a nice sharp fillet knife.
For sure. And then you're gonna get to this point, you see the vent right there? You're gonna poke your knife all the way through.
Oh.
And you're gonna come all the way down to the tail. Some folks will leave it attached to the tail here, but we're gonna go ahead and cut it. And you're gonna open up your bass, and you're gonna cut down the top. Cut away from those bones.
You're just feeling the ribs with your knife.
Feeling right along the ribs with your knife. Do you see that?
Yes. Now, having a fillet means there's very few or no bones at all.
Correct. Ideally, if you are a good filleter, you should get no bones in your fillet.
Well, you're doing a great job, and it looks like we probably won't have any bones.
Almost through. There we go. So we've got a start. We also will have to fillet another side if you want to get both sides of the meat, and why wouldn't you? When you're filleting out fish, especially if you get a larger bass bigger than this, you're gonna wanna look along this lateral line area, which is towards the top of the body, right under the dorsal fin, and look and see if there's any dark colored meat, because you're gonna cut that off. But one of the things we're gonna do is we're gonna take the skin off that fish.
Put him in.
So you're gonna use your fingers right at the end where the tail was, and you're gonna cut at an angle.
Oh, so this is the purpose of not taking the scales off.
That's right, because you don't have to.
Oh. It's a lot less work. Sort of.
Sort of. So we've got a nice fillet, and I left a little bit of meat on there, but not terrible.
I think you did a great job.
And then you got your skin and your scales left behind. And that's a pretty decent looking fillet. There's no dark meat. That looks like we're ready to wash that bad boy off, bread it up, and fry it.
Awesome.
All right, catfish is a different ball game because those guys have skin instead of scales. And unlike trout, who you can eat with the skin on, you can't do that with the catfish. A lot of people will just take a board or even just use a tree and use a nail to impale the catfish's head, but we're just gonna hook his lips right under that, and that'll help hold it while we skin the catfish.
All right.
All right, so we're gonna get our catfish.
All right, and I've heard there's some parts of a catfish you have to be concerned with.
You do, you do. A lot of people think it's the barbels, but those guys, they won't hurt you. We have the dorsal fin back here that has one really large spine, and then we have one spine on each pectoral fin.
All right.
On each side. I don't have any venom whatsoever. Okay, we're gonna take this catfish and we're going to clip him right under that bottom lip. You want to hold that up for me? There, perfect. And hopefully that'll hold him tight. All right, first things that we need to do is we're gonna have to scour right behind. You can feel that the catfish has a pretty bony head and it's really, really hard. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna cut across that head, but not through it. You'll feel that the spine is right there. You don't wanna cut through that spine. All right, some folks will start at this point and start pulling the skin down. You can, but one of the things that I like to do is just cut along the backbone to kind of give our skin another avenue to cut away from, right alongside of each side of that dorsal fin, which is where you really need a sharp knife. All right, so the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna grab with the pliers. And a good set of pliers is where they meet all the way across. You don't want to get pliers that are old, that have imperfections, where they don't come together at the same time, because then you'll run into issues of it's not going to hold your skin like it should.
So these are special skinning pliers.
Skinning pliers. You can't use the pliers out of your tackle box. I got a little bit of meat there. And everybody thinks that, you know, the catfish is supposed to skin like a banana, but their skin kind of goes down, so don't be expecting it to come all the way to the tail on the first try. It's going to kind of slide down the body on the side.
So obviously once we have skinned this guy, we can dress him out, we can fillet him, we can do all kinds of different things to prepare the fish for the frying pan.
We can. All right, we've got this catfish nice and skinned. It takes a little while and a little bit of muscle, we both agree. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna take it, hold it, and you're gonna twist it until you snap the head, and then you kind of pull and all the oodles come with it.
Oodles.
Oodles.
Oodles and oodles of oodles.
Oodles and oodles of innards.
There we go.
But we still have, like before with the brim, you still got some nastiness in there. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna take your fillet knife, and you're gonna cut down to the fin again, slice it open, and then scrape all that out. Now, just like we did earlier with the brim, you can wash this fish out right here, you know, clean out the blood, the little membranes, and then you're good and ready to deep fry this bad boy. Some folks will take off this long anal fin as well as cut off these pectoral fins as well. Another way is that you can go ahead and fillet this fish out like you would the largemouth bass. And when you cut it open, just like I said with the largemouth bass, you look for any of that dark meat. It's going to be on that top part, and you're not going to want to eat that because that's going to be really, really fishy. So you're going to want to cut any of that dark red meat or any funny coloring in the meat up here, then you're going to just cut that right off. And a lot of times if you get a really big catfish, it's kind of cool. You get down in here and you'll see a lot of bright yellow fat, but we didn't get any of that today. But still good eating. All right, we're done with our catfish, and I guess we're ready to hit the frying pan.
That's right, Lorianne. We've got our catfish, and we've got all our fish that we filleted and dressed out on ice, and we're ready to bread them up and get them cooking.
I hope you guys have as much fun and as much luck as we did today, catching a lot of different types of fish, and we're ready to eat them up. So I guess we will catch you guys next time.